Buluga. It just looks like Toprak maybe has a little bit less comfort than Buluga, but that's where for BMW they need to make that step forward. They need to try and give themselves that advantage into the rest of the weekend. But for Razgadioglu, he said yesterday that he really was struggling for grip out there at times, didn't feel comfortable, and we saw that with Van der Mark crashes as well, just how defined the limit can be on that BMW. Toprak's able to find a way around it, but obviously for Toprak and for BMW, they know that they need to make a step. This is where Ducati are always strong. Hot temperatures, the V4R has traditionally been very strong as well.
Yeah, terrible day for Michael van der Mark, the name you just mentioned there. Good day for Andrea Locatelli yesterday, potentially showing us some of the best pace he's had since his win at Assen. Best part of almost 2 months ago now. But it would seem to be an encouraging day for Yamaha in general, with Dominic Agatar ending the day in 8th. And Remy Gardner, before his 2 spells in FP2 yesterday, was sitting up in 4th and finished FP1 yesterday in 4th place. So maybe Yamaha have got a little bit more this weekend.
Yeah, Locatelli's really struggling in Sector 2. So Sector 2 runs from Turn 6 down to the entry to Turn 9. So it's got that long Turn 8. It's got the straight as well. That's where he's given up 0.3 of a second in yesterday afternoon's hotter free practice session. And obviously, that's where you're really taking much of your information from, just because they're the conditions we're going to face.
Just a wink to the camera there from Alvaro Bautista, consistently the 3rd best rider yesterday. Just a step behind Toprak and his teammate Buluga, you would think, but a weekend where he'll need to bounce back and get on the podium once again, considering that he seems to be in the shop window for 26. And there we see Michael van der Mark, very frustrated rider yesterday. I was standing down at BMW for much of it, for his problems, and when they rolled the bike back out for his last run, the bike stopped. He managed to get started again, but a really discouraging day for Michael van der Mark.
Yeah, there was a queue of people outside BMW yesterday whenever we were leaving the track as well, just everyone trying to get themselves on the Toprak seat. Petrucci had a chat with them, a few other rider managers were down there as well. I know Garrett Gerloff has been linked to it as well and trying to get himself back onto that BMW, so it is a seat in demand. And for van der Mark, he knows that he couldn't really afford those crashes yesterday, but at the end of the day, when you're out here riding on the limit, sometimes you can be on that limit and just step off that tightrope.
And for Michael van der Mark, maybe the thing goes for him is the fact that Toprak is leaving at the end of the season, so maybe BMW will just want that consistency in the other side of the garage.
Yeah, and for van der Mark, he's done a good job for BMW. Obviously, a lot of injuries at times during his tenure with the team, but you look at last year, top 6 in the world, won a race, podiums, good strong performances. This year, with the standard bike, as it has to be referred to, without the super concession frame, it's been an awful lot more difficult for van der Mark, and he's really hurt by the fact that for the MGM team they switched to Ducati, because you'd imagine if you still had, say, Garrett Gerloff and Scott Redding on the BMW, then you've got more comparisons to make for van der Mark to other riders, whereas if you're being compared to Toprak, the most extreme rider out there, and the rider that everyone regards as being the top rider in the world right now on a superbike, it's quite difficult to be his teammate.
That's what you see with a lot of riders, the top line riders. They can just ride around any issues, and for the more normal riders, they find it a little bit more difficult, as Nicola Buluga heads out on track to start his FP3 session. We just saw Sam Lowe's there. He had a couple of issues yesterday in FP2, but expect him to be in the mix for maybe the potential, the front row of the grid in Superpole. We have seen him right at the front in the previous few rounds for the number 14 Mark VDS rider. Another rider that had some issues in FP1 yesterday, Johnny Ray, the 6-time champion. Electrical issue that they found in FP1, and he missed much of the running in the opening session of the weekend, but managed to get out there for FP2, and it seemed a more straightforward session in FP2. But thankfully for Johnny Ray and the Pata Yamaha squad, they did test here a couple of weeks ago, so it's not like they're missing out on a lot of track time. They have a lot of that testing data to fall back on. So we could see Johnny Ray potentially moving up the order in this FP3 session. Another rider that needs a clean session is Remy Gardner. Showed good form yesterday. 4th in FP1 yesterday, was 4th before his first spell in FP2 yesterday. The team done a brilliant job, a remarkable job to get that bike back up and running. Yeah, you could just see Scott Redding there, just a lot of absorbing a lot of the bumps through turn number 3.
Yeah, and if we can see that, it feels horrible on the bike. And for Scott, obviously, and for the team, they know that this is a big weekend. They need to start turning things around. It's been really interesting to see the little sea changes that we've had with the MGM squad over the course of this year. Galinsky was talking yesterday, and in the build-up to this round on social, it had been said that this was going to be the the last season for the team that there's big issues. Yesterday, speaking to the media, he talked about the fact that he wants to continue, he wants to keep going for next season. Obviously, a new Ducati comes out. The expense of that is quite large, so they need to make sure they're able to find some sponsors. But if you're a race team, you want to keep racing, and Galinski's trying to find what he can, but it's a big challenge.
Yeah, he was saying yesterday, I think just before you joined the media scrum, that he may have to pay from his own pocket, which is nothing that we didn't really expect. But we hope to see the MDM squad back in World Superbikes next year, and hopefully they get to see out the season, to be fair, as well.
Yeah, as ever, if you want to make a small fortune in racing, start with a big one, and you got to go in with your own money sometimes, and hopefully for Michael and for the team, they're able to get around that. Just looking at the times right now, Danilo Petrucci's just gone to the top of the time sheets, 33.4. That's his fastest time of the weekend. So cooler track temperatures now. Everyone's out there. A lot of riders will probably try the new Q tyre in this session just to be able to understand it. We saw yesterday Jari Montella used it in free practice 2, jumped up to 3rd fastest in that session, 4th fastest overall on the day. So some riders might try and use it in this session just to be able to give themselves that little bit of a frame of reference before the Super Pole session. Yeah, sorry for all the Jari Montella fans that were cheering away, especially inside the garage. I was in there yesterday for FP2, and the way they were cheering for his 3rd place, it was like he took pole position. As you see Johnny Ray having a couple of moments going through Carvoni. Just for Johnny as well, yes, big problems in free practice 1. He actually came back for only a couple of laps at the end of the session, had one lap that was deleted from him that was pretty much the same pace as Locatelli, so it showed that he was in the ballpark straight away on the Yamaha. And then in the afternoon, a lot more difficult in the hotter conditions. But Johnny at least looks a lot more comfortable on the bike. We know the bike's working well around here with the other riders. The big challenge for Yamaha is, even when it's working well, you're still up against Toprak, you're still up against the Ducatis, and Iker Lacombe has been going well this weekend as well, so it becomes quite difficult to really make that impact. Johnny goes 3rd fastest, just down to 4th now, but at least immediately down into those 33s, faster than he went yesterday. Yeah, you can see Danilo Petrucci, who usually does find a little bit more form in the FP3 session, as Sam Lowe's now goes to 3rd in the standings. Yeah, that's 5th fastest on the combined times as well for Sam. He missed out on all the running yesterday afternoon, the problems in FP1 as well, so that's really encouraging for him and the Mark VDS team. Yeah, but when I went down to Mark VDS yesterday during those issues, they didn't seem too frustrated, they seemed a bit more relaxed than you'd expect a team when they're having a bit of issues. So they know the pace is there, as we see that Sam Lowe's is inside the top 4. And for Sam, he has been incredibly impressive, especially on a Saturday so far in 2025. And we expect to see him potentially challenge for the front row of the grid later today. Yeah, I think that if Sam's able to put it on the 2nd row of the grid, he's done really well considering the track time that he's lost. As we're just waiting for Bulaga to come through on this fast lap. He's going to have the fastest lap of the weekend if he's able to get through trouble-free. Yeah, Nicola Bulaga, a rider that is well and truly on form in that Aruba Ducati at the moment as he comes through turn at number 14. With only 2 more corners to go, and Nicola Bulaga well and truly on song as the Italian, and it seems to be quite a bit to beat, does the number 11 Italian. Maybe Toprak will find a bit of form, as Toprak is currently a 10th of a second down on Nicola Bulaga, his championship rival, as he goes across the line. It's going to be a 1:32.6. Fastest lap of the weekend by a 10th of a second there for Nicola Bulaga as well, so really good effort on the number 11 machine, and we'll wait and see how Toprak answers back to that. There was a crash down at turn 4, and that was the 3rd crash of the weekend for Bahattin Safoglu, and it's the 3rd crash of the weekend as well for Michael van der Mark. That's down at turn 14, it looks like, and turn 14, that slow first gear hairpin. So for Mikey, another crash. He'll have to come back into the pits now. You can see very minimal damage done there to the right-hand side of the bike. Typically the turn 14 crash is just where you fall off the edge of the grip, so we'll see what happened to Van der Mark. You can see they're very similar to his 2nd crash yesterday at that corner as well, and this is where the frustration's really going to build for Van der Mark as well, because you can see there just the consequences of it. But basically yesterday with the BMW, and Toprak said this as well, you just could never feel the limit on that front end, and that's clearly the issue for Van der Mark through 14. It's not the kind of place where you typically have a crash. Yeah, it's such a shame for Michael van der Mark as well, under great pressure on that 2nd side of the garage, and on a human level it's just such a shame to see, because he is clearly trying, but that frustration will start seeping in, and it'll start playing on him a little bit more mentally as the weekend progresses, and that could barrel into the rest of the season as well. Yeah, and for Van der Mark, obviously this is proven to be quite the tough weekend. We'll see what he can do in the Super Pole session and bounce back from that. You can see Danilo Petrucci now just coming through to the end of his lap, and Petrucci was on a good lap at the start of this one, but lost a bit of ground there through Carvoni in that 3rd sector, but he's just trying to get his miles in now at this stage.
Yeah, the laps ticking off for Danilo Petrucci, and as we have seen so many times on a Saturday morning, he does just find a little bit extra in the morning session. Keeps his powder dry on a Friday, does Danilo Petrucci. So he finished 5th yesterday in FP2, so you would expect to see him well and truly in the mix today as we see Samuels come across the line once again. And 5th he remains, no improvement on his time. Backs into turn number 1. And you can really see the bikes moving around this Misano circuit so far this weekend. There's a few bumps out there, but it seems to be, as you're saying, maybe a little bit lack of grip as well. And you're just seeing the bikes moving around more so than you would normally.
Yeah, there's always a few ripples around this track just because there's a lot of action at Misano and a lot of car racing as well. And for the bikes, it then leads those little ripples on the racetrack, and tough for the riders to deal with at different places. We saw for Scott Redding just how clear that was as well. But overall, it's the high temperatures that cause the biggest issue, and you can see there for Danilo, something's come off the side of his bike. It looks like it's maybe a transponder or
very brave
his camera
there,
or something like that. But something's popped off the back of the bike there, so the marshal able to pick that up, and the team just waiting for Petrucci to come back into the pits at the end of his stint, obviously.
Yeah, nonplussed is the team there. They're very relaxed in that side of the garage. As we're back with Andrea Locatelli, currently sitting in 9th, just there behind Johnny Ray. So a good start to the session on Saturday, FP3 for Johnny Ray. But this seems to be an improvement. Potentially 4th place coming the way of Andrea Locatelli, the Italian rider, and hoping to impress the home fans on the Yamaha R1. So as we see Andrea Locatelli coming around the final corner, 10 minutes to go of World Superbike FP3 here at the Pirelli Emilia Romagna round, and Locatelli goes up a couple of places. He moves from 9th up to 6th place, and a good lap from Andrea Locatelli there.
Just for Locke as well, loses 0.4 of a second in the final sector. That's turned 14 to the end of the lap, and loses a bit of time then in the middle of the lap. Still struggling a bit in sector 2, which is that run down the back straight down in towards turn 8.
Andrea Dossoli, JBMotorsports your motorsport division manager, just having a little chat there with Nicolo Canepa, and a bit of a wry smile on the face for Andrea Dossoli.
Yeah, Yamaha did a good round table yesterday with Paolo Pavasio, and he was doing a good job of parrying off some of the Superbike related questions to Dossoli and Canepa, but overall Paolo really was very open about talking about Top Rack and the prospects they did have in MotoGP and what it means for Yamaha as well. So quite interesting to be able to see that, and also really good to be able to see Yamaha giving the emphasis to World SBK as well. Paolo obviously coming from this paddock in the past, and it's good to be able to see a lot more integration between their two projects, and certainly it was good to be able to see that for Yamaha you've got their MotoGP technical directors here, they've got Mauro Marigali here, and then also Paolo, so good to be able to see all of that coming to the World SBK paddock to explain and talk about Top Rack move and their prospects going forward.
You also see the potential coming over to try and sort out that second Pata Yamaha seat as well, as I was trying to press Nicolo Canepa yesterday in FP2 of which direction it could be going in, and as you can imagine, he was not giving away anything. Yeah,
I still kind of think the longer it goes on, the more emphasis there seems to be, and obviously Stefano Manzi is probably going to move up to Superbike for next season. Tommy Aguilar's got a new crew chief this weekend. He needs to have a very quick turnaround in fortunes, because they could easily put someone like Chanon Chu onto the second bike there, push Remy Gardner onto the paddock bike. They can keep Jonathan Ray, obviously. They'll have to negotiate with Johnny for what's going to happen for his contract. That's going to be a big factor. But if Johnny and Yamaha think that they can be competitive, that'll be a discussion that they'll have as well. So a lot of options for Yamaha.
Yeah, they are indeed, and it'll be a bike that some people want to get on, but consider it as a race winner in 2025 in the hands of Andrea Locatelli back at Assen, as we've just got under 8 minutes to go of FP3 this Saturday morning in Misano, and Alvaro Bautista as well in touch with his teammates' time at the second split. So an encouraging start to the morning for Alvaro Bautista, and Alex Lowe's on the Bimota, the tricolor of the Bimota, the number 22. He moves up into second spot, and one of those just sliding it through Carvoni. That's what you love to see on a Saturday morning. It's brilliant stuff.
This looks like it's a Q tire stuck into the back of Alvaro's bike there as well. We'll have to wait and see at the end of the session, but this could well be a qualifying simulation there for Alvaro. The outright lap record at 32.3, so Bullock is about 0.3 of a second off that Super Pole from last year for Top Rack.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing that going out the window in Super Pole. You see the front chattering away, going through the final corner. Turn 16, powering across the line, will be top spot for Bautista. No, it'll be second place. He loses 0.1 of a second in the final split to his teammate Nicolo Billiga. So He's well in touch throughout most of the lap, and in the last sector, as he's just continuing on. But over the bumps, you can just see how much he's making the bike move there. The rear slides and the front shattering away as well. As we see that confirmed to us the other day that he's a free rider for 2026. So it'll be interesting to see what direction Alvaro Bautista goes. Will it be staying in the paddock? Will it be something else potentially?
I think Alvaro's going to be here next year, and if I'm Honda and I can get Alvaro for pennies on the pound, I'm all over that, because he's going to be more motivated than ever. They're not going to have to pay him the 1 million, 1.2 million, whatever it was a couple of years ago that they had to pay to get him. Suddenly he's available, he's motivated to prove everyone wrong that he's still got it, and if I had the option to be able to sign Alvaro up on that bike and that package, I'd be all over that.
Yeah, you would be indeed. A very big prospect it could be for Garrett Gerloff. A big slapper into the final corner. Garrett Gerloff currently 16th spot, but this is a good lap time. Probably a new Q tyre in the back of that Kawasaki across the line, up to 5th for Garrett Gerloff. Even though it could be a new tyre, it's just good to see your name up inside the top 5 for a confidence boost.
Yeah, and important there for Gerloff to do that as well. We know that at certain tracks he always finds a little bit more tracks that seem to suit his style, so hopefully for Garrett this is one of those weekends where he can do that. Home round for Pachetti as well, and important for them with all of their sponsors here to be able to have something to show for this weekend. Yeah,
Garrett Gerloff want to show what he can do after what's been quite a difficult start to the season so far.
32.8 there for Alvaro, only a few thousandths of a second slower than his previous lap, so good bit of consistency there.
Garrett Gerloff through sector 1, already underneath Nicolo Bulliga's fastest lap time for the time being. So we'll keep an eye on the number 31 Pachetti Kawasaki throughout the rest of this lap, as Nicolo Bulliga, he has gone back out there on circuit, getting chased by his fellow Italian Danilo Petrucci. And Garrett Gerloff, he has lost a little bit of time, currently on course for a 3rd spot, as the American riders were watching Gigi Dell'Ugna, the rider, the man that makes everything happen in Ducati course. So with just under 5 minutes remaining of FP3, powering down the back straight, Nicolo Bulliga is on course to improve his lap time just a half a tenth of a second underneath his best time so far.
Yeah, you can see there at the front just how on the limit he was as well, just closing ever so slightly there for Bulliga. But Garrett Gerloff on another really good lap. You can see his time at the bottom of the screen as well, and Gerloff on course to move up from that 5th spot that he's currently in, but probably just going to improve his lap time. Mightn't make an improvement in position, but comes across the line up to P4 and 100th of a second faster than Alex Lowe's as well. So good effort from Gerloff, good effort from the Bimota of Alex as well to be up there inside the top 5 right now. Iker Lecuona in the top 10 again, and that's going to give him a lot of encouragement. Domi Aguilar, important to say it as well for Domi, like I said, crew chief change for this weekend, and great to be able to see that improvement for him. For Nicolo Bulliga, just coming into these last couple of corners, this could well be a new lap record from Nicolo Bulliga. 32.320 is the lap record for Top Rack last year in Superpole.
Yeah, as he comes across the line, will it be a brand new all-time lap record for Nicolo Bulliga? Ticks off the timing being, and he is just missing out by 0.003 of a second actually. So Nicolo Bulliga well and truly on song, and when you expect, so when he comes to Superpole later on, you can imagine he'll be on course for it.
Yeah, you can see Top Rack's pit board there, 32.6 is what it said for him, and for Razgadioglu, that's the target time that he has to beat on this stint. Down in towards the first couple of corners, this is a section of the track where it's so easy to make a mistake on a qualifying lap in particular, and then your whole momentum is gone. Down in towards turn 4, you can see just how much Top Rack trail breaks into this part of the track. It's going to run out towards the curb. You don't want to run up on that curb because it just costs you a bit of balance. Through turns 5 and 6, this is a place where it's very easy to have a crash through turn 6. Down in towards turn 8, this is the long La Puerta corner, but you can see again, you're braking on the angle. You're really having to hold that brake whenever you're leaned all the way across, just chasing down one of the MIE bikes in front of him as well. And it looks like it's Taz McKenzie. Down in towards the 9-10 complex, this is Tremonto, the most important corner of the racetrack. Look at how you have to pick the bike up now to exit through here. This is where you carry all of your speed down the straight in towards Curvone. Top Rack's going to have to make the move early on the straight in towards the super fast 5th gear Curvone, and just about able to make that move on McKenzie. You can see again there just how much the bike wants to move around underneath you. For Razgadioglu, halfway through the lap, he's up by 1/10 of a second. He's lost 2/10 of a second though, having to come through on the MIE Honda. It looks like he's got another MIE Honda in front of him as well, and that'll be Zakwan Zaidi. But with a couple of corners to go, we'll see if Top Rack's able to get himself closer to Bulliga's time. We saw the target time of the 32.6. Top Rack's going to be down to 32.4s on this one.
Will be indeed. Great analysis through that onboard lap again, Steve. Brilliant to ride on board with Top Rack Razgatioglu as he goes to second place, 1:32.6.
Lost the time in that final sector as well. So it was actually the 32.6 target time that he was able to meet.
A pensive face from Sean Muir and the BMW squad. And as he watches Top Rack Razgatioglu, we'll see. I have noticed a few riders have improved on the second flying lap as Zach Manzada gets a bit of a wobble out there on the curb. So keep an eye on Top Rack on this lap.
Yeah, and for Top Rack there, a good lap by him again. He's able to come away with something. For Zaidi, just about in the 105% time, but as you can see there for Scott Redding, just getting a little bit in the way. But for all of the riders now looking forward to the Super Pole session, Sam Lowe's just goes himself up into 4th fastest there as well. But the Super Pole session is going to be really interesting. Obviously for Bulaga and Top Rack, they're going to be those two outright fastest riders. For Bautista, can he qualify in the front 2 rows of the grid? What's going to happen with Lowe's and the Yamahas as well? You've got Domi Aguilar doing a really good job in this session to be up there into P7. You've got Locatelli just moving up into the top 5 as well. A lot of riders putting in those Q tyres, so we're getting a good indication of what we can expect from them during the course of that Super Pole section. But this is really shaping up to be a good one. And just looking at the times as well right now, Jonathan Ray on course to move himself up into the top 10 on this lap as well, so we'll see if he's able to carry that through as well. And for Yamaha, at least there's some signs of encouragement. 4th fastest, 8th fastest for Domi Aguilar as well.
Yeah, encouraging signs for Yamaha, and it's poised to be an incredible TISO Super Pole coming up in just under 2 hours time as Garrett Gerloff continues to improve his lap time up to 6th for the Pacetti Kawasaki. Iker Lecuona, he moves out just outside the top 10 as Andrea Iannone comes across the line. No improvement there for Iannone on this lap, down 15th, and that's not what the Italian rider would like. Just
looking at the sector times as well, Top Rack has around about a 1/10 of a second in hand on Bulaga in Sector 1, and then for Alvaro Bautista, he's the fastest rider in Sector 2. Sector 2 running turn 6 down towards turn 9's entry. For the second half of the lap, though, it's Bulaga in both of those sectors, 1/10 of a second faster than Top Rack in Sector 3, but most importantly, 2/10 of a second faster through turns 14, 15 and 16. But on Top Rack's fastest lap, we also saw that he had that bit of traffic, so we haven't really seen everything we can get from Top Rack. He's actually on course now, halfway through the lap. You can see the time tower on the left-hand side of the screen. Red sector for Razgatioglu. Let's see what he can do in Sector 3, though. He's just coming down in towards Curvone now.
Yeah, Sector 3 has been a bit struggle for Top Rack on the previous lap, but as you said, Steve, he had a bit of traffic in that final sector as the checkered flag waves to end FP3. No improvement there for Andrea Locatelli, but 4th place, a good time for the Italian as we're back with Axel Bassani. He's on improvement as Bassani 4th place, potentially coming the way of the Bimota as he comes across the line now, and number 47 will improve to 4th. He does indeed. He just demotes his fellow Italian Andrea Locatelli down to 6th as Razgatioglu has backed out of the lap.
I love that as well from Axel. He knows he's put in a good lap there, and you can see the traffic now for Top Rack here at the end of the lap, but that's going to give him plenty of encouragement coming into the Super Pole session. Obviously, it's only going to get hotter. We've got 30 degrees, 32 degrees track temperature right now. Yesterday, the teams were telling me that they were getting readings as high as 60 degrees out there, so really will be very hot whenever we get to racing conditions.
Yeah, very greasy conditions later on today, and we saw yesterday morning the Top Rack did have the measure of Bulaga in the morning session, and the Ducati really did come into its own later on, so hopefully for Top Rack, it will be the other way round here today as FP3 is now done and dusted, and a few riders have got a lot to be pleased about. Garrett Gerloff up in 7th on the Pacetti Kawasaki. Domi Aguilar with that new crew chief for this weekend inside the top 10, the 2nd Yamaha so far this weekend, so improvements coming the way of the Swiss rider as we see the riders about to get started, or about to get underway for their practice starts. Andrea Locatelli and Alvaro Bautista. As Bautista was about to get launched for his, we just cut away to Top Rack, who finishes the morning session just under 3/10 of a second off his championship rival. So good start to the morning for Bulaga and Top Rack, and Bautista, as we saw much of yesterday, rounding out the top 3 as well. But once again, as we see Axel Bassani up there in 4th, that was a good lap coming in there at the end for the 47 on the Bimota, but everyone is still chasing the number 11 Aruba Ducati. And with a lot of Ducati hierarchy here this weekend, Nicolo Bulaga is putting faith in their decision to sign him up for 26 for World Superbikes, to stay in the squad, and of course a testing plan with the MotoGP team as well. As Nicola Biliga gives a big wave to the fans that we expect to come in their droves for today's racing action, and tomorrow, of course, on Sunday. Nicola Biliga has given them something to cheer for. You can expect maybe a few thousand extra have come through the gates this weekend just to see Nicola Biliga on the Ducati, an Italian rider, take on the championship. So we're going to get a recap of the final results of FP3. Nicola Biliga leading it just under 0.3 of a second ahead of Toprak and Alvaro Bautista. Axel Bassani up there in fourth in the Bimota ahead of Sam Lowes and Andrea Locatelli. Garrett Gerloff, a good ride for Garrett Gerloff here this morning, and seventh ahead of Alex Lowes, Domi Aguilar and Danilo Petrucci rounding out the top 10. Just missing out in the top 10, but shown good form this weekend so far. Ika Lacona ahead of Scott Redding, who has made a bit of improvement from the start of the session up to 12th, ahead of the two Yamas of Johnny Ray and Remy Gardner, with Andrea Locatelli, Andrea Iannoni running at the top 15, and at the back is Taz McKenzie, Sofoglu and Zaidi. And of course the combined practice times in so far on the front page of the grid, it seems that everyone has made an improvement, with Nicola Biliga all the way down to Danilo Petrucci.